My name is Rajkumar Dhanavir Singh. I am going to teach 11-12 Sociology. Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss Indian Society, Unit 4. The name of the topic is Social Inequalities and Exclusion, first part. Inequality and exclusion. So first of all, let us discuss social inequality. We know that in every society, some people have greater share of value resources like money, property, education, health, power than others. These social resources can be divided into three forms of capital. The first one is economic capital in the form of material assets and income. Ahambagi economic capital na haribasi social resource ahum sidai sida mi khoigi ahambagi economic capital haribasi khoigi material asset oina income kayam na lai magi property kayam lai na haibuduni. The next one is cultural capital, such as educational qualification and status. Like laishu kayam na haige magi status society the karmaina tauge haibuduni. And the third and the last one is social capital in the form of network of contact and social associations. Often these three forms of capital overlap and one can be converted into other. Social resource ahumasi mi ayamba matamda mi kanglup khar khaktana punna passion bana ayam boigale. For example, a person from a well-off family, economically well-to-do family, can afford expensive higher education and so can acquire cultural or educational capitals. Someone with influence relatives and friends may, through access a good advice, recommendation or information, manage to get a well-paid job. Aina hariba resource ahum masi mi karna natraga particular person am khangna punna passion bagi thaba se overlap ta use adum thoi kodam moina harabada aina se huji hajari baduni mi amana manupa am khagma si na kara khunba imung amadagi lakuna maram moidana education aphawa akho phangi adudagi amu magi mari mata gumba akhoi phajana social capital leiba haigadra influential oiba mi am khaki magi advice dagi natraga mahangna sin langbudagi aphaba thabak achauba tolo phajana chawwa ma phangmungam bagi maram masina ngasai overlap oin haibasini. So in this way, unequal access to social resources are called inequality. Inequality in the haribasi masigi unequal access of social resources in Masigi society da ladiba inequality sida masikari nano haiba matamda akhoi maram mayam marakta social stratification na haibasini. Social stratification is a system by which categories of peoples are ranked in a hierarchy in a society. This is a system of structured inequalities. I think manadaba masigi social stratification na haribasi akhoi structure inequality structure system am khangni. So there are three key principles of social stratification. The first one is social stratification is a characteristic of society, not simply a function of individual difference. Social stratification is a society-wide system that unequally distributes social resources among categories of people. So for example, in most technological primitive societies, yam nangalingai primitive society singda mi singasi magi darkar leibedu khaktamak puthoknarami chana thangnabani khangde amani khangde si mai gi darkar leibedu khaktamak puthoknarami masida isida akhoi gi social stratification chi yamna akhoi gi magi kanu si level se handarme. However, in most technological advanced society phajana hauji modern society chakhol matam sida di mi singasi akhoi gi magi surplus value hen puthokpanga ma si man darkar leiba potu dagi hen puthokpanga me. So however, social resources are unequally distributed to various social categories regardless of people's innate individual abilities. And the second key point is social stratification persists over generation. Social stratification na haibu pochi akhoi generation by generation lakpani. It is closely linked to the family and to the inheritance of the social resources from one generation to the next. Aduna ngasai social stratification haribasi magi particular person amakagi status asi magi generation magi parents induna kari oiramge ma kayam pasha paibno kayam influential oibno status society da karmai lerambage habidugi adusu achoba kano amakhangni generation dagi generation da satharak papora amakhangni. A social position is described. That is, a child assumes the social position of its parents. Man puiba angang amakhakna puriba imungdugi magi parents indo kari oige madugi social status to maduna khoigi angang adugi magi kano status sutai. So birth dictates occupation. When mamangi chapter sing that high give adu main tawduna caste system da for each and every caste a particular profession is assigned to a particular caste and have high grade tamgre. For example, Dalit is likely to be confined to traditional occupations such as agriculture labor, scavenging, or leather works, with little chance of being able to get high-paying white-collar or professional works. Dalit ki imung amakhakta puba angang sing asi magsi akhoi hanagi moigi tradition gi lajaramba caste system na piba moigi profession du da adum stuck tawraga leibo duna maram moiduna makhoi sing asi akhoi matam ge hujik akhoi white collar job aduga paisa phajana phangba work am thaba amakhak phangba ina habase awaba ma oiri. The ascribed aspect of the social inequality is reinforced by the practice of endogamy also. Akhoi moina lohong kai hongbagi kano se niyam sinasu endogamy sina maram oidna magi rest members indugi caste same caste marak to the restriction adum tawdun leiri masina makhigi caste sigi magi intercaste marriage sigi kano se oidaba maram na makhoi adum akaiba adum masai social stratification se adum lengdana adum lehele. And the last one, social stratification gi last key sina social stratification is supported by patterns of beliefs and ideology. No system of social stratification is likely to persist over generation unless it is widely viewed as being either fate or inevitable. For example, caste system is justified in terms of opposition of purity and pollution. Si asing amangan na habisi kanamtana kasu loina mag opposition ta oppose tawi mayam yaningdi, with Brahmins designated as the most superior and Dalit as the most inferior by virtue of their birth and occupation. Tauriba puriba family dugi matung ina ngasai particular person amakha Brahmin family da pore masi khwaidigi wangba khwaidigi most superior ni Dalit da pore gana amu khwaidigi nemba ma occupation duna maram moiduna natraga mana puriba duna maram moiduna ngasai gi samaj ki stratification je khai besi masina maram oi. Not everyone thinks of system of inequality is legitimate. Mi amaga manati kanu tau de na right manati na traga masi unequal way na habu pochi kanamtani yaning de. Typically, people with greatest social privilege express the strongest support. Sume matang sida isida ngasai mathakta leiriba awang jati ni hariba kangu singusna masigi stratification ja masi support tawe, while those who have experience of exploitation and humiliation of being at the bottom of the hierarchy are most likely to challenge it. Aduga makha da leiriba ngasai Dalit kumba natraga khoi Shudra caste ki makha da leiriba kangu singasina hairiba inequality gi kanu se moi opposed tawi moi yaning de. We think social exclusion and discrimination is because of the differential economic resources alone. Khoina khalle social exclusion tawiriba discriminate tawriba se khoi paisa paibagi thong manadabani paidabasingda khoina handana yengmani makhoi ba khoina inthokpibani kaina khalle. However, this is partially true. Chumdi havenati chummi khara makhaidi adu not only this is the reason people often face discrimination and exclusion because of their gender. Nupani nupini haidana adum nupibu handana yengba adum bana so adum oibi because of religion, ethnicity, and language, caste, and disabilities. So physically handicapped oibising the handana yengbi so adum masi social exclusion ni masi discriminate adum tawbibani. Thus women from a the woman from a privileged background may face sexual harassment in public places. Nupising akoigi inakara khunba imungdagi tholagasu natragana akoigi socially akoina caste system the high class Brahmin family natraga Kshatriya family dagi tholagasu akoigi street ta kaida akoigi nupising bu hanthana yengba mongda langna biba khopa adum madu sodum thoi. A middle class professional from a minority religious or ethnic group may find it difficult to get accommodation in a middle class colony even in the metropolitan city. So, in this inequality, prejudice is also a very big problem. Each of us grow up as a member of a community from which we acquire ideas, not just about our community, our caste or class, our gender, but also about others. Akoi puna magna akoina polak padagi akoina lairaiba akoigi community dugi maramda akoigi tongan akoigi oiba idea khara sagachai. Adugi mathakta akoina kano tawribasi akoina khangibasi aigi community dugi natraga aigi caste dugi aigi kayam class dugi natraga aigi nupani nupini haibasigi mathakta atopa singi maramdasu ai adum khangi ai adum thijalli khangi. So often these ideas reflect prejudice. Sugumba aigi magi haiba aina idea am khak sagalib sina prejudice and haibase thole. Prejudice refers to the preconceived opinion or attitude held by the members of one group towards another. Prejudice na hariba potse hana prejudgment tawraba haibani wakhanda. Prejudgment tawraba, that is an opinion formed in advance of any familiar with the subject before considering any available evidence. Khudam yaudana aigi wakhanda hana sagalaga leiba adugumba prejudgment dubuni prejudice na haribas. A prejudiced person's preconceived views are often based on hearsay rather than on direct evidence and are resistant to change even in the face of new information. Prejudice na haribasya mi amakaki magi hana already magi mind da set tawdun leigraba mase angang oiringadagi magi kanodu da dum set tawdun leigraba pot amakhangni mase maroina mina haibudagi tabani mina haibudagi tambani mahang madugidu evidence ka konona te khudam phangdana natraga madu man maduni haidana laurubudi nati adubu sigumba prejudgment tawdun leigraba magi wakhanda leigraba se information anouba phangaga su hongdokpa se yamna wagalle. Prejudice may be either positive or negative. As a positive, aina prejudice na hariba pochi kanglup amabu natraga atopa group amabu handana khanba yai natraga phana lobuso dum yadabdi nati mas either positive or negative. Although the word is generally used for negative prejudgment, it can also apply to favorable prejudgment. Adubu akoina yamna kanna prejudice na haragadi akoina khanaribasi negative prejudgment duni akoina hana prejudgment tawraga leiribasi negative oiba wakhanduni adubu masigi pocha akoi aphabasu khandabdi nati. For example, a person may be prejudiced in favor of members of its own caste or group and without any evidence. Akoi isagi caste natraga akoi isagi community do yam wang na aina khanjaram yai, believe them to be superior to members of the other caste or groups. Atopa caste sidagi akoi gi groups na hena wang be heli natraga akoi gi groups na hena phabe heli kaina khanja khalam yai. Prejudices are often grounded in stereotype, fixed and inflexible characterization of a group of people. Stereotypes are often applied to ethnic and racial groups and women. In a country like India, which was colonized for a long time, many of these stereotypes are partly colonial creations. Some communities were characterized as martial race, some others are effeminate or cowardly, yet others as untrustworthy. India gumba sahi kaya British na lokshan na colonize tawdun leiramba sidadi makoina thamamba akoi gi prejudice akoi gi idea duni akoi gi kokto lehori base kharadi yamna kan thauba kangu ni khudam moina harba Kshatriya kangu singdi landi yamna thauba kangu ni kano akoi gi pathan kangu singdi natraga aduga kangu amana moidi yam thina miki thini coward ni thajaba yaba kangu nati ka haibasi akoi British kangu singna akoi gi mind sida set tawbirama ba dugumba prejudice am khangni. In both English and Indian fictional writings, we often encounter an entire group of people classified as lazy and cunning. Akoina English literature adagi Indian fictional writing mayam ama paaba matamda adum thengnai madudi group amaka a group of people is classified as lazy and cunning. It may be indeed be true that some individuals are sometimes lazy or cunning, brave or cowardly. It is true. But such a general statement is true of individuals in every group. Sugumba port city every group khuding magta adugi group adagi group naida bida adum yaudabante loin thengnai. Even for such individuals, it is not true all the time. Hari basida ngasai mi talle natraga brave oidre thona laitre natraga kigan mani hari basinga se matam puna mak chumba makti nati. Say for example, a same person individual may be both lazy and hardworking at different times. Tongan ba magi situation dugi matung ina yam talamba mi dusu hardworking work pa yai natraga akoina coward ne na lawramba dusu situation khara da yamna thongna phabu uthor pa yai. Stereotype picks all groups into single. However, stereotype na di magi ngasai gi hariba prejudice se kok da akoina hana prejudgment si lairi bisi magi single person amu khaktang no treat tawai mas homogeneous category wen. They refuse to recognize the variation across individual. Stereotype kanu sigi matung ina prejudice sigi matung ina magi stereotype ori bisi kari no habi matamda ngasai gi makoi gi hana already hana mind set tawduna laigraba prejudgment do hongdo pa yada bisini. They treat an entire community as though it were a single person with a single all-encompassing trait or characteristic. So now we have discussed the particular term prejudice. So the next word, discrimination, is a very interesting one. If prejudice describes attitude and opinion which is already prejudged, discrimination is nothing but it refers to the actual behavior towards another group or individual. Ahambagi prejudice na haibu potuna akoina prejudgment kok ta han khandana laiba khoi gi attitude to natraga opinion agi wakhanduni. However, so in this particular word discrimination, it is direct behavior towards another group or individual. Atopada ina direct chaliba igi lamchat to behavior duni. Discrimination can be seen in practices that disqualify members of one group from opportunities open to others, as when a person is refused a job because of their gender or religion. Discrimination and haibasi akoina tangkak kayada u phangi. Khudam moina harabda akoigi nupi ni natraga religion sina maram moidana thabak kumba kaigumba opportunity mayam ma khoi moibo akoina inthok piba akoina yahondabda. Discrimination can be very hard to prove because it may not be open or explicit stated. Hekta discrimination haibasi sida lairi hadan heta silairi hadan utpasu ngamde maramdi kaigino matamda madugidu akoina practice kanu si heta utpanate mayam mangde heta open oibnati. Discriminatory behavior or the practice may be presented as motivated by others, more justifiable reason rather than prejudice. Prejudice to the wakanda laibudugi mathakta aina discrimination tawrakpa matamda madugi poto akoina maram mayam ama piraga kupsanba honai. Khudam moina harabda akoigi nupa makhak magi thabak se masi refuse tawre natraga masi akoi thabak si khandre haina khanba matamda madu kari maram gino mana khandribagi maram se asengbadi caste na maram oibi religion na maram oibi natraga gender na maram oibi adubu somdadi ngasai khalliba midunadi masa they were less qualified than others. Atopa laiba competitor natraga magi ngasai gi kanu sing adudagi qualify oibo wali natraga makhoi sing ase ngasai gi akoina tawriba khalliba thaba asi yamna purely merit basis the khanmani haidana akoi leithokpusu yai. So the next one is social exclusion. Social exclusion refers to ways in which individual may become cut off from full involvement in the wider society. Social involvement pura society degi pura social involvement si kakhibuduni. It focuses attention on a broad range of factors that prevent individuals or group from having opportunities open to the majority of the population. In order to live a full active life, individuals must not able to feed, clothe, and house themselves, but should also have access to essential goods and services such as education, health, transportation, insurance, social security, banking, and even access to the police or judiciary. Social exclusion is not accidental but systematic. It is the result of structural feature of society. So here, it is important to note that social exclusion is involuntary. That is, exclusion is practiced regardless of wishes of those who are excluded. So, for example, rich are never found sleeping on the pavement or the park benches, unlike thousands of homeless poor people in cities. ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯆꯧꯕ ꯁꯤꯇꯤꯁꯤꯡꯗ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯅꯤꯄꯨꯔꯗꯕꯨꯗꯤ ꯊꯦꯡꯅꯗꯦꯀꯣ ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯃꯄꯥꯟꯒꯤ ꯑꯆꯧꯕ ꯁꯤꯇꯤꯁꯤꯡꯗ ꯂꯥꯏꯔꯕ ꯃꯌꯥꯝ ꯑꯃ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯣꯚꯔꯕ꯭ꯔꯤꯖ ꯃꯈꯥꯗ ꯑꯗꯒꯤ ꯄꯥꯔꯛꯀꯤ ꯕꯦꯟꯁꯇ ꯇꯨꯝꯕ ꯊꯦꯡꯅꯩ ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯏꯅꯥꯛ ꯈꯨꯟꯕꯁꯤꯡꯗꯤ ꯇꯨꯝꯕ ꯊꯦꯡꯅꯗꯦ. This does not mean that the rich are being excluded from the access to such places, pavements, park benches, under the overbridge, etc. ꯃꯐꯝꯁꯤꯗꯒꯤ ꯃꯣꯏꯁꯦ ꯆꯪꯍꯟꯗ꯭ꯔꯦ ꯅꯠꯇ꯭ꯔꯒ exclude ꯇꯧꯔꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯌꯥꯔꯣꯏ. ꯃꯔꯝꯗꯤ but they choose not to do. ꯑꯗꯨ ꯃꯣꯏ ꯀꯅꯥ ꯏꯅꯥꯛ ꯈꯨꯟꯕ ꯑꯝꯇꯅ ꯃꯗꯨꯗ ꯆꯪꯉꯒ ꯇꯨꯝꯕꯒꯤ ꯀꯩꯅꯣꯗꯨ ꯄꯥꯝꯕ ꯅꯠꯇꯦ. Social exclusion is sometimes wrongly justified by the same logic. ꯁꯨꯃꯥꯏꯅ ꯇꯧꯗꯅ ꯉꯁꯥꯏ ꯃꯁꯥꯅ ꯄꯥꯝꯖꯗꯕ ꯄꯣꯠ ꯌꯥꯎꯅꯤꯡꯗꯕ ꯐꯠꯇꯕ ꯊꯕꯛꯇꯨꯗꯤ ꯗꯤꯖꯔꯕꯜ ꯑꯣꯏꯗꯕ ꯄꯣꯠꯇꯨꯗꯤ ꯌꯥꯎꯅꯤꯡꯗꯦꯗꯅ. ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯕ ꯄꯣꯠ ꯑꯁꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯀꯩꯅꯣꯁꯤ ꯃꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯂꯣꯖꯤꯛ ꯑꯁꯤꯅ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯁꯣꯁꯤꯌꯦꯜ ꯑꯦꯛꯁꯀ꯭ꯂꯨꯖꯟ ꯇꯧꯕꯤꯔꯒꯁꯨ ꯃꯗꯨꯗ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯏꯟꯊꯣꯛꯅꯩ. ꯈꯨꯗꯝ ꯑꯣꯏꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯕꯗ it is said that the exclude group itself does not wish to participate. तसेंगने exclude तौबीदे हाइबदो मा यावनिंगदबने. खुदम हाइबबु the truth of such an agreement is not obvious when exclusion is preventing access to something desirable. Apam akoina social exclusion na harku matamdadi tasengbadi karino hai matamda akoina pamba desirable oiba pot amakhak phangaktaba akoibu inthorapudubuni social exclusion na haribu poche. So prolonged experience of discriminatory and insulting behavior often produce a reaction on the part of the excluded, who then trying for inclusion. Say, for example, upper caste Hindu communities have often denied entry into temples for the lower caste and especially Dalits. Say, khudam moina harabada akoigi inak kanu akoigi upper caste ki Hindu society da upper caste ki leiriba makoi singa sina Dalit amasung lower caste ki kangu singa si makoigi temple da moigi laisang da changhande. These Dalits, after decades of treatment, such treatment, ill treatment, Makoibu Hantana Yangbiba, Makoibu Tritlan, Kanoto Bibisina Maram Moidana, the Dalits may decide to build their own temple or may convert to other religion like Buddhism, Christianity, and Islamism. Makoibu Matam Sang na Intopira Pudra Maram Moidana, Dalit Singasina, Masidi, Akoi, Kanabunati, Haidana, Makoidigi Akoina, Kanota Wudunati, Haidana, Makoishi, Moigi Tonganda, Temple Mashagivi, Natraga, Atopa Dharmasing, the Moi Dharma Onjan gives you. After they do this, Masumaina Tauraba Matunda, they may no longer desire to include in the Hindu temple or religious events. Hindu singi mohi temple da amuk langing haidi masi already mohi temple lejagre natraga dharma hongrabani na Hindu temple da changning bagi wakhan natraga makoi gi religion gi akoi kumai phiong lakum matam da dai da natraga makoi gi religious ki oi batha ritual ke adu dai da moi interest yauk tabi madu akoi dagar laite har pai. But this does not mean that social exclusion is not being practiced. Makoi na pamaktre hairagasu akoi noi du da desert oidre hairagasu Pamdre Haragasu, as I social exclusion, Taudi Habudi Yaroi. The point is that exclusion occurs regardless of wishes of the excluded. As I intok Piriba Natraga exclude Tauriba Kangu Singa, Madugi, Wak Magi, wish Natraga Yaudragasu, Ahogi social exclusion and a Hypopochidiadum lay. So we have already learned many discriminatory and social exclusion from different ways. So because of the caste system, so discriminatory system is also there in caste system. So the caste system is a distinct Indian social institution that legitimize and enforce practices of discrimination against people born in the particular caste. These practices of discrimination are humiliating, exclusionary, and exploitive. Caste systems in India, the Southern Miba caste systems in Ahogi Maruina, Dalit Amasung Magi, lower caste lady, but Shudra Kangu Singasa, Mako discriminate Adam Tawi, Moji, Ahogi, historically Adam Taudanai. Historically, the caste system classified people by their occupations and status. Miyama Kaki Magi status, Amasung Magi, Ganusing asi, caste systems, Maram Moidana, Magi occupation Tongan lay, Magi society, the Magi different hierarchy of status lay. Every caste was associated with an occupation, which meant that person born in a particular caste were also born into the occupation associated with the caste. They had no choice. Moi came to cannot we are the I canosida in a poor caste sida Yauriba, I pyramid professions and not particular occupations, I tauro and having moi choice lady. Moreover, each caste also had a specific place in the hierarchy of social status. Aina han hagi baduni social status samukha magi kanosida isida society da dum magi hierarchy se dum lai. So that roughly speaking, not only were occupational categorized, ranked by the social status, there could be a further ranking within its broad occupation categories. In scriptural terms, social and economic status were supposed to be sharply separated. For example, the ritually highest caste, Brahmin, were not supposed to amass wealth and were subordinate to the secular power of kings and rulers belonging to the Kshatriya caste. Social religious oinadi akhoi khwaigi wangwa thaktan leidiba akhoi Brahmin kangu singa se masi economically di akhoi Kshatriya kangu ningthau singa sina oibisigi makhada adum lei moise. So on the other hand, despite having the highest secular status and power, the king was subordinate to the Brahmin in ritual religious sphere. Aduga hek opposite ta Brahmin sing asina masi economically natraga masi kanu da ningthau singi makha da leiragasu ahogi kanu gi religious ki matang da lakpa matam dadi ningthau sing asidagi Kshatriya kangu sing asidagi makhoina mu wangna mu lei magi status. However, in actual historical practice, economic and social status tended to coincide. There was a close relation between social status and economic status. Adum history na adum tae madudi kari no hai matamda social status wang ba hai base adum paisa pai ba mina adum oye. The high castes were almost invariably of high economic status. Caste matamdu dai du da akhoi gi caste wang ba kangu singa se adum paisa adum pai ba akhoi economically sound oi ba kangu singa adum oye. In the modern times, however, the link between caste and occupation become less rigid. Adubu haujikti modern society is the occupation leng dana sum laiba natraga kanona haibu potu masi occupation je tawdabi yadre natraga masi particular caste am khakta piri mai occupation do madu adum stuck tawduna laibagi chanabido yam kanna strict oidre haujikti. Ritual religious prohibition on the occupational changes are not easily imposed today. And it is easier than before to change one's occupation. Aham the Shunya Yaramdragasu, Haujikti, Ahogi, Indiana independence, Pangabu Matung, the Gidina Tragadugi, Mamang, even Mamang, Ahogi post independent British Napaling in 19th century, Gedai Matam Dudagi, Haurakpaduna, Miyamakaki Magi profession se. Profession loaning below Yabagi can say them labore. Moreover, the correlation between caste and the economic status is also weaker. Rich and poor people are found in every caste nowadays. Caste, every caste, Kuding Makta, Lyra, Inakun Brahman, Ergasu, Hanadi, Brava, Kanokhi, Kshatriya, Kangu Singa, Natraga Baisia, Kangu Singa, Moina, well sound family, economically sound Orambadu, Hausi. Ki modern age that every caste called Brahman Sulairaba lay inakun Basulay, Kshatriya Sulairaba inakun badum lagani, every caste coding mapta, Lyra inakun by Hapusadum Pange. But caste and the class correlation is still remarkably stable at the macro level. Adum a chow ying mumatamda, a wiki caste, some class and a high pocha, Anisi adum Marilina, the Nadum lady, chow ying mumatamda. So I conclude here for today.